I'm back, and I am beginning again on page, let me see, it is page 9 toward the bottom of the page, and I'll read the last couple of sentences from The Witch of Blackbird Pond, Part 1A. A smile filled his eyes with such warmth and sympathy that a lump rose in Kit's throat, and she glanced away. Then she saw that the child, silently clutching her sodden doll, was staring at her with a gaze of pure worship. 2 hours later, dressed in a fresh green silk, Kit was spreading the wet dress and the woolen cloak to dry on the sun-warmed planking of the deck, when her glance was caught by the wide black hat, and she looked up to see the new passenger coming toward her. "If you will give me leave," he said, with stiff courtesy, removing the hat to reveal a high, fine forehead, "I would like to introduce myself. I am John Holbrook, bound for Wethersfield, which I learn is your destination as well." Kit had not forgotten that comforting smile. "I am Catherine Tyler," she answered forthrightly. "I am on the way to Wethersfield to live with my aunt, Mistress Wood." Page 10. "Is Matthew Wood your uncle, then? His name is well known along the river." "Yes, but I have never seen him, nor my aunt either. I do not even know very much about her, just that she was my mother's sister back in England, and that she was very beautiful." The young man looked puzzled. "I have never met your aunt," he said politely. "I came to look for you now because I felt I should ask your pardon for the way we all behaved toward you this morning. After all, it was only a kind thing you meant to do, to get the toy back for the child." "'Twas a very foolish thing, I realize now," she admitted. "I am forever doing foolish things. Even so, I can't understand why I make everyone so angry." He considered this gravely. "You took us aback, that is all. We were all sure you would drown before our eyes. It was astonishing to see you swimming." "But can't you swim?" He flushed. "I cannot swim a stroke, nor could anyone else on this ship, I warrant, except Nat, who was born on the water. Where in England could they have taught you a thing like that?" "Not England. I was born on Barbados." "Barbados?" He stared. "The heathen island in the West Indies?" "'Tis no heathen land. 'Tis as civilized as England, with a famous town and fine streets and shops." Page 11. "My grandfather was one of the first plantation owners with a grant from the king." "You are not a Puritan, then?" "Puritan? You mean a Roundhead? One of those traitors who murdered King Charles?" A spark of protest flashed across his mild gray eyes. He started to speak, then thought better of it, and asked gently, "You're going to stay here in Connecticut?" Under his serious gaze, Kit was suddenly uneasy. She had had enough questioning. "Do you live in Wethersfield yourself?" She turned the tables. The young man shook his head. "My home is in Saybrook, but I'm going to Wethersfield to study under the Reverend Bulkley. In another year I hope to be ready to take a church of my own." A clergyman! She might have guessed it. His very smile had a touch of solemnness, but even as she thought it, she was surprised by the humor that quirked in his fine straight lips. "I mistrust you will be a surprise to the good people of Wethersfield," he said mildly. "What will they make of you, I wonder?" Kit started. Had he guessed? There was no one who could possibly have told him. She had kept her secret even from the captain's wife. Before she could ask what he meant, she was diverted by the sight of Nat Eaton swinging along the deck in their direction. His thin clothing had dried on him, but the friendly grin of that morning had been replaced by an aloof and mocking smile that showed only too well that his morning's ducking had not been forgotten. "My father sent me to find you, Mistress Tyler." One couldn't have guessed by his tone that he had ever addressed her before. "Since my mother has left the ship, he thinks it best that you eat at board with Goodwife Gruff and her family." Kat wrinkled up her nose. "Ugh," she exclaimed. "That sour face of hers will curdle my food." Nat laughed shortly. "'Tis certain she expects you will curdle hers," he answered. "She has been insisting to my father that you are a witch. She says no respectable woman could keep afloat in the water like that." "How dare she?" Kit flared, indignant as much at his tone as at the dread word he uttered so carelessly. "Don't you know about the water trial?" Nat's eyes deliberately taunted her. "'Tis a sure test. I've seen it myself. A true witch will always float. The innocent ones just sink like a stone." He was obviously paying her back for the morning's humiliation, but she was surprised to see that John Holbrook was not at all amused. His solemn young face was even more grave than before. "That is not a thing to be laughed at," he said. "Is the woman serious, Nat?" Nat shrugged. She'd worked up quite a gale, he admitted, "but my father has smoothed her down. He knows Barbados. He explained that the sea is always warm and that even respectable people sometimes swim in it. All the same, Mistress Catherine," he added with a quizzical look, "now that you're in Connecticut, I'd advise you to forget that you ever learned." "No danger," Kit shuddered. "I wouldn't go near your freezing river again for the world." She had made them both laugh, but underneath her nonchalance, Kit felt uneasy. In spite of his mocking tone, Nat had unmistakably warned her, just as she knew now that John Holbrook had been about to warn her. There was something strange about this country of America, something that they all seemed to share and understand, and she did not. She was only partially reassured when John said, with another of those surprising flashes of gentle humor, "I shall sit with you at supper, if I may, just to make sure that no one's food gets curdled." And that's the end of Chapter 1. Stay tuned to Chapter 2 next Wednesday. I'll be uploading these on Wednesdays. So once again, if you want to get in touch with me, my email is miztutor@gmail.com, and I would be happy to help you with anything that you need help with as far as learning English is concerned. I will put my email in the description below, and from now until next Wednesday, have a good evening.